Welcome back to another episode of Embracing Magic with me, Steph, and my lovely co-hosts, Elizabeth and Tony. Today we're going to be talking about the Coven Witch and the Solitary Witch, the differences between them, and yeah, if there's one that's better, if there's a better path. So yeah, we're going to be exploring that today. So if you don't know what each of those are, the Solitary Witch is a practitioner or witch that practices by themselves, and a Coven Witch is obviously a witch that practices with a community of other witches, a coven. So yeah, we're going to talk about that. So should we start with Solitary Witch?
Well, it's very interesting. From personal experience, I basically launched as a Coven Witch.
Yes. So
Really?
you didn't really start as a Solitary Witch.
I didn't start as a Solitary Witch. I was like, give me all the witches together. So from personal experience, beginning as a new witch in a coven setting was incredibly helpful because I learnt so much from being part of a community. That isn't to say that if you start as a Solitary Witch, that isn't, there's no, I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's just my personal experience of learning so much through a community was so beneficial. And so I can't really imagine starting as a Solitary Witch. I think I really benefited from learning about spells, intention, all aspects of witchcraft, learning about the history of witchcraft from being part of a coven. So I really identify as a Coven Witch.
You do practice quite a lot on your own, though.
I do practice. Yeah, that's true. I do practice a lot on my own. I do a lot of work with Brigid, the goddess Brigid. I do a lot of work connecting with her, and so I really do utilize the time on my own. But I really find that being involved, again, from my personal point of view, being involved when I'm in ceremony, say online with the Coven, it's a different experience. I find it much more, I find it a deeper, more spiritual experience being with everybody, like in a full moon ceremony, from my own point of view.
So we haven't really started with Solitary then.
No.
We haven't really started with Solitary, we started with Coven Witch. So I apologise.
Yeah, let's start with Solitary. So I'm a Coven Witch.
Coven Witch. That's probably the wrong person to start with. But yeah,
Well, maybe we start with our own journeys then. So you started very much off as a Coven Witch. What about you, Tone?
Sorry, Solitary Witch, yeah, for sure. I don't think that people were that out in the open about witchcraft when I started. And I definitely did a lot of hiding it for a long time. Or I was kind of like a bit of a joke amongst friends. It was a bit of a joke that I was into witchcraft. Like it's not really their fault. It wasn't, nowadays people talk about it a lot more freely. Because I've been practicing witchcraft for well over 10 years now. And I started to sort of open up about it really in COVID. Maybe a little bit before then in person, like with friends and family and colleagues at work, I was probably a bit more open about it. But I started to be quite visible online with it during COVID, or maybe even a little bit before that. But then I noticed that I started to attract fellow witches, sharing their practice. But yeah, so I guess I started with an altar space. That was the first thing that I did. And I started bringing the seasons inside and kind of displaying them. I didn't really know anything about formal altar setup. It was more a case of displaying items that resonated with me. I'm trying to remember what I might have had on it back then. I had a silver platter, which I still have, kind of like maybe like a pewter platter. And I used to have an assortment of different pillar candles on it. So I changed the colours on the candles. Depending on the season, and I'd bring foliage in. I think I had like a skull, which probably should have been a bit of a signal that I was a death witch from the starter. I had interestingly, I always had a musical instrument on it, and it's got the kind of like waterfall seeds on it, but it's a wooden stick. I actually don't know what it's called, but it looks very witchy, and it makes like a kind of like lovely kind of like pod sound as it goes over. Yeah, it's quite beautiful sound. And then I had a tarot deck. I definitely had a little wooden box that had a pentacle on it, which obviously doesn't align with me anymore, but like, some trinkets in there. And I had an athame. So I think that's kind of what I had to start with. I did a lot of reading, did a lot of connecting with nature. But I wouldn't say that I formally did much ritual work. I think I was still figuring out who I was in the beginning. So, I think it's interesting because I would say that I need the mixture of both of them in my life. The Coven has brought a level of accountability to me that has kept me really grounded in my practice, because people are expecting you to show up and facilitate, and I'm there for people to ask questions in sessions. So it's really important that I stay informed. Obviously, I'm really interested in activism. So any activism around witchcraft, I have to do a lot of research in it. And I think that sort of that accountability side of it and that deeper connection when you're in a space is so beautiful and unique, that I will always need that. I will always need that Coven aspect. But I probably don't do a lot of, when you're facilitating, you're not really partaking in the ritual necessarily. You probably feel this way sometimes.
Yeah.
Like when you're leading a full or a new moon ceremony, you're not necessarily doing what the rest of the group is, because you're trying to guide them through their process. So in a way, I probably am a solitary witch in the sense that a lot of the ritual work that I do is still on my own. But I don't know that I would be as committed as I am without having that Coven aspect. And I really do live for the days when we're physically together in a space. Like, I just feel like my soul needs it.
Yeah.
Like in a really deeply
I mean, you do
meaningful way.
sometimes come to my ceremonies for the moon.
Yeah, but I struggle with your ceremonies because they're centered around journaling. And
Right.
for me, there's a block there with writing my feelings down.
Interesting.
Sometimes I'm in flow and I can write loads, but I have to really push myself. Like, I have to push myself to do it. I don't know what it is about journaling. It just, there's a real resistance to doing
A
it.
lot of people
Interesting.
struggle with
Yeah.
journaling.
Yeah.
I think some people have this like battle with it.
I definitely have a battle with it, yeah.
But I think really with journaling, you've just got to let whatever come out, whether that's one word or an entire page.
Yeah.
And I think that's where people think they need to be writing pages and pages.
Well, I mean,
actually sometimes it's just a word.
I bullet point a lot of the time. Like, sometimes, like I said, I free flow, but like a lot of the time I bullet point. But I just I don't know what it is. I love journals. I love stationery. I love having beautiful stationery, but I really, really struggle to do the work when it comes to journaling. And
do you know what I find really interesting about that is because you're such a poet.
Thank you.
I find that really fascinating.
But I can't do it in a time frame. And
Right.
I think part of the problem is that you're trying to create a time slot that fits the majority. And actually, when you have resistance, you need more space. It's like with the shamanic drumming. You always need more drumming before people get into that meditative state. So maybe if I was like around your house and you were leading it and there was no time constraints, I would get to that place where I could do it.
So this is why I've changed the ceremonies this year.
Yeah.
And actually I've changed it so the meditation and visualization and grounding is all at the start. So we do the grounding meditation, then it goes into the visualization.
Yeah.
And then I've cut it down to 3 prompts.
Yeah.
So, it's not so much,
Yeah.
because I think because I'm so used to journaling,
Yeah.
and I'm quite good at it, I can sit there and write loads.
Yeah.
So I've had to adapt it to everyone's needs. So
That's the tricky thing though, isn't it? Because like everyone's needs are so different. I want really specific prompts, and I like prompts to be direct, not airy-fairy. So like when people say, what is it you want to release and what do you want to cultivate? I'm like, well, I don't fucking know.
I don't know.
Where do you want me to start? Like, the list is like
Everything.
This. Exactly. So I want someone to say, what are you going to do tomorrow that's going to make a
Yes.
difference to this goal? And not everyone likes to receive instructions that way. So it's a really tricky task because like in any facilitation, you you know, you're trying to meet the needs of the group.
Yeah.
What I will say is that I really struggle with working online and then being online for like, you know, so like if I wasn't working a day when you were doing a moon ceremony or someone else was doing a workshop, I wouldn't have a problem being online. But since being sick last year, like I just really don't want to be on the computer anymore.
Yeah,
Then I have to. And I'd love to prioritize the coven over the work, which I probably do anyway. But like I just so desperately wish that all these women that we've connected with across the world could just all be in a room together more frequently. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
but like I said, with the moon ceremonies, I've definitely changed the structure so much this year to try and fit everyone's wants for them.
Yeah.
So even after the journeying, we then go into some sort of activity that's based on the element of that moon. So we did some scrying into water for that one because it was all about full moon in Cancer, and it was nice to have a divination aspect for the first one. So yeah, there's an element of change going on with those to kind of...
They should always develop, really, shouldn't they? That's something you were really keen to do this year, was for things to change and grow.
And it also makes you super excited as a facilitator to bring in a fresh energy and perspective into it.
Yeah.
Can I ask you both, because you both began as solitary witches, do you feel now that with the coven that has informed your own personal solitary witches, has informed so much of what goes into the coven, like creating your different facilitating workshops and things like that? Do you think all that experience of doing it by yourself and growing and learning has informed? Not really.
No, not really.
Is it more being in the coven?
Yes.
Okay.
For me, it is. I would say that a lot of the stuff that I learnt in the lead up to being in the coven, years and years and years, all of it's changed. All of my feelings around witchcraft have changed, and they're continuously evolving. And you know, we're always talking to each other about stuff, and feelings are changing around, you know, what resonates and what doesn't, and you know, how our paths have kind of like, there's so much ebb and flow, I think. But I definitely feel that being part of the coven has brought out the best version of myself in terms of my practice, not just from a witchcraft perspective, but also from a bringing something nourishing to a group that has sort of like ended up being nourishing for yourself as well without realizing it. Like, I think that I get so much from leading a workshop and seeing it fulfill others. So it's really important when creating the workshop that I'm thinking about how it might actually benefit the people in there. I mean, we did a really silly one the other day where we just made spirit guides out of clay, you know? And I remember being really honest and being like, I never made anything out of clay in my life. But apart from like 15 minutes before the workshop. But, you know, like it wasn't about being the perfect ceramicist. It was about using our hands and using our imaginations and creating something out of the element of earth. You know, the clay was representing earth. We were in the sign of Capricorn until the 20th of January, I think. So we decided to start with the earth element and just, you know, be playful, which I just don't think we do enough as adults.
No, I totally
it was really fun, and it was silly, and we were kind of like, it was quite chatty, which often in my sessions I do all the talking, and I'm like almost begging people to kind of like be open, you know. They'll talk in the chat feature or whatever, but everyone was vocally speaking, and it was really lovely, and we were showing each other our funny little creations, and they were all so different. They were really, really different. But I think that that sort of like want to provide something nourishing to the group it means that I really do my homework every time we do a spell crafting or we do a sabbat. Like, I make sure that I'm prepared for questions. I make sure that I bring an activity that I think is going to be helpful. And I think that that's helped my witchcraft in a big way.
In a massive way.
It's to the point where I could sit in a Q&A and have people ask me questions, and I think I could quite confidently answer. I can't answer them now because of the 2 years or whatever of actually like solidly practicing. But also I think just I'm going to have a new altar reveal soon. I'm having a little altar upgrade.
Exciting.
Yeah, I found a piece of furniture that just kind of like aligned a bit more with what I wanted to do, and I feel really excited to again evolve my altar in a new way, because I've had different altars over the year. Started out with a massive one. It was just a sideboard, and I remember my husband thinking,
I remember you showing me that.
Yeah, and I remember my husband being like, "This is a bit freaky. It's a bit weird, a bit weird having it in the house." And now it's kind of evolved into my whole house looking a bit like an altar, as you both know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
There's just like weird altars everywhere, but there's one spiritual space which I'll go to do my divination, to do my prayer, to do any coven sessions. That bit's having a little bit of an upgrade, which I'm excited about.
Nice.
So I think, from my perspective, I think you need both.
Yeah,
you need to have
agreed.
the solitary part, because you need to be able to sit with yourself, have the meditation, be able to you can journal with other people, but I find the free time to journal a bit easier. But I feel like without that coven aspect, there's no one holding you accountable to your practice. There's no sort of like structure to your spiritualism, sort of like keeping you in check, keeping you on a path that is
it is hard to fit it in when you're so busy with life, isn't it? So it's like when you've got those dates to go in your calendar and you're like,
Exactly.
I'm dedicating this hour a week to me and my spiritual practice, and I get to do that with loads of other incredible witches.
I think as well, speaking from joining in as a coven witch, that has given me the confidence to do it on my own, to do it in my own space, my altar room that I have. So it's given me the confidence, and also it gave me the confidence straight away to say I am a witch. I'm quite proud to be a witch, and I'm part of a coven. Like to just voice that, which is such a difficult thing.
I feel quite confident.
Yeah,
saying that,
really confident in saying that,
because it's like you're not saying it. You're not having to deal with the judgment of it just being you.
Totally,
you can be like, well, there's 130 of us,
yeah,
so we can't be that weird.
Yeah, exactly. And I think what's really beautiful is, I'm sure to solitary witches listening, and there are solitary witches in the coven who will, when they say hello, when they join the coven and they introduce themselves, you say like, would you introduce yourselves to everyone? And they'll say, I've been a solitary witch for 10 years, 15 years, and this is a massive deal for me coming into a coven space and wanting to share and learn with everything. So and being in the broom closet as well. So they're a solitary witch, they're not out as a witch, they're still in the broom closet, and they've just joined a coven, and so you saying please introduce yourself and feel part of this coven is really, it's a big deal.
It's a big deal when they choose to come to a retreat.
They choose to come to a retreat, yeah,
because they're like physically putting themselves out there.
Yeah.
What I was just going to say on something that you said is, I do not subscribe to the idea that people are too busy. I think that is a choice. Like you make choices on what you want to happen in your life. Like it's like when people say, "Oh, I can't afford that £20 a month." It's like bullshit. You're spending £20 a month on something,
on coffee,
Yeah,
or you're
true,
spending
I
it
guess,
on
yeah.
going out for a few drinks with your mates.
I spend it on Lunar and Wild Coven, thank you very much.
I spend it on a nice candle.
Yeah.
But the point is that whenever you spend your money, you're making a choice, and you can either make a choice to do something that expands your life in a way, like draws you closer to a goal that you want to get to, or you can do something that does the opposite. And I can tell you that being part of the coven is definitely a drawing towards a goal that you want to have.
Massive.
And I just think when people are like, "Oh, I can't afford to go to an £100 retreat," or "I can't afford to pay £20 for a membership," I'm like, no, it's not about not affording to. It's a choice.
It's a choice.
You're choosing not to.
It's a really good point.
I didn't really think about it like that, but yeah, it's true.
I mean, I'm not trying to say that there aren't people out there that can't afford it, because obviously there are people that can't afford that. But I think for the majority, it's a choice, and that's fine. Like it's up to you, but don't tell me you can't afford it. Especially given what the energy exchange is.
It's outrageous.
It's huge. Like the amount that is on offer is part of. I mean, like in a regular coven that you don't pay for, that you're just a group of practicing women, you don't get any workshops. You don't get to ask questions from people that are experts in their field. I'm not necessarily talking about myself, but I'm talking about other people that you bring in, TRE specialists and stuff like that.
Yeah, incredible.
You know, like, or like professional foragers or whatever, someone who's on hand to help you identify things.
Yeah.
You know, you don't get that as part of a conventional coven, and that is worth the expense.
100%.
So I think that not only as being a part of a coven transformative to my practice, but being part of this coven specifically comes with so many benefits, so many unbelievable benefits that have expanded my views and my thoughts and feelings and the education that I have, you know.
It's definitely been a learning altogether, really. Like we're all learning from each other constantly.
And it enables the solitary practitioner side.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, you can come into a session and learn about scrying
And then go
take that
away.
home and
Go away and
practice
do
it
it.
on your own.
Well, let me just tell you about my journey from
Yeah.
Please do.
Go on,
from
Stephanie.
being a solitary practitioner when I started. And I think when I started, it was the pull of nature that really called me to this practice. And it always takes me back. I don't know if I've said on the podcast before, but to a moment in Australia where we had driven down to Margaret River in Western Australia. And when we got there, my partner turned the car lights off and the whole sky was lit up with stars.
Wow.
And it just made me feel like a very small part of the world. Just seeing that incredible sky, like you could see the Milky Way. It was just an insane experience. And I think from that experience I had in Australia anyway, it's very nature connecting. I think I knew that I wanted to take that back to the UK.
Yeah.
And then, I got really stuck into foraging, connecting with plants. And at this point, I wasn't calling myself a witch at all, or really knowing that I'd basically started my witchcraft journey, I think. I was doing a lot of foraging, a lot of like sustainability activism sort of stuff. I remember I was doing a lot of like Instagram blogging on like sustainable swaps and stuff like that, and making things with plants and all of that sort of thing. And then I had this like, I think I had a blog for called Earth and Moon. Oh no, it was a newsletter that I had written called Earth and Moon, and it was connecting the two, like the spiritual aspect with the all of the earth stuff that I was doing. And then I can't remember how I re-stumbled across witchcraft again, but I remember messaging Tony and being like, I'm really interested in all in all of this, and then I had a huge list of book recommendations back. And then that was it. Like, and I wasn't a huge reader at the time. And
Half
but
of those books I don't even like anymore.
no, me either.
Sorry. Did you like this book?
Well, this was years ago anyway.
Yeah,
Probably
it was
like
a long time ago.
7 years ago, maybe.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I literally was devouring these books and being like, oh my God. Like everything was really resonating with me at the time. And I was like, it was almost like I didn't even realise that I was on, well, I didn't realise that I was on this path.
Yeah.
And then it was just so exciting. And so then, built my first altar space. It was actually very small to begin with. And then things just started spiraling. Then I created Lunar and Wild and started making my own candles. And that was a huge part of my practice as well, making the candles and
Because that's when
starting
I
the business.
honed in on you with your candles. That's when I was like,
What is she doing?
what is she doing? I want to get it all.
I want a piece of this.
Give it to me. And then what was it like? I'm really fascinated to know, what was it for you? Was there something on your solitary path that was like, I really love a community, or be part of a community? Or
Yeah, so I think I had been part of some other community spaces, but it was more based around coaching.
right.
And then I was just like, I really want to be part of a space that was solely around witchcraft. And solely around learning and being a sisterhood and having that sense of community and a place where if you were still in the broom closet, you could
Be safe.
be safe to talk about the things that you were excited about, the things that, you know, brought you those glimmers. But that you couldn't talk about with your family and friends.
Because that's still, I would say, majority. A lot of people are still in the broom closet.
Yeah.
And there's a mixture of the different witches that you talk to who are just coming out the broom closet, very much still in the broom closet, quite confident, quite happy to be in it. But as you say, the Coven is a very safe space for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone is allowed to be at whatever journey, whatever place they're on. And that's what makes it really special and
I know what you mean about being in a space as well with everyone feeling the same way about something. You know, I just want to be around witches all the time, talking about witchcraft, and you know, you it's impossible to create that. So it's like the Coven is just the perfect, you know, it's the perfect thing for that. You know, when we spend time together, we know everyone in that room is deeply on the same level as us. It's like when you find a witch in real life, you're like, oh my God, give me your details. I must know. We must be friends.
We have to be friends.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And it's quite rare, you know. So I think it's really special, and it kind of like encourages you to learn more as well. Like we're all kind of encouraging each other.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this thing? And you know, like, you know, you obviously just taught me about the three cauldrons, the three black cauldrons, and how that's a Celtic chakra system, and it's something that we're implementing into our sound healing. And
well, yeah, even with that, like when I discovered that, I got the glimmer came out again, because I was just like, it never really resonated with the chakra system.
Same.
And then when I found this, it's called the cauldron sort of posy. I don't know whether I'm saying that right, so please do excuse me. It could be poesy maybe, but it's an ancient Celtic, Irish Celtic poem, all about the three cauldrons of the body. So you have your lower cauldron, your middle cauldron, and your upper cauldron.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, the lower, I guess, if you were going to kind of relate it to the chakra system, would be the sacral and root. And then the middle cauldron would be like the heart, solar plexus. Yeah. And then the upper would be the third eye and the crown, I guess, if we were relating it to that system. But oh my goodness, yeah, I was just like, wow, this really resonates with me so much more. And then I got this idea to incorporate it into sound, into a sound bath. So now when Tony and I do our sound sessions, we have three cauldrons.
Oh, I love
I had an image saved on my phone, but I've forgotten because I stumbled across the three cauldrons, and it was saying about one representing consciousness and one representing something else. And I've forgotten what her name is, but that amazing shamanic teacher who also has a kind of coven, but it's very different from what you have. Rhonda.
Yeah, so she's got the book. It's called The Cauldron and the Drum.
Yeah.
And that's where I did most of my learning on it so far. But yeah,
But she comes from shamanism rather than specifically witchcraft.
Okay.
But
That's
it just makes
awesome.
total sense because, like you, the chakra thing never really resonated. I just always saw it as much more yoga, like a Far East wisdom, which is still beautiful, but it doesn't necessarily feel like mine. So when you were telling me about it, I was like, that's really interesting. Like really interesting.
Do you know what? I think it's just amazing when you just stumble upon something that you haven't heard of before, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I can't remember exactly that there's certain parts of the cauldron basically that, you know, if they're all full, then they're all flowing in balance with each other.
Wow.
But there's obviously times in your life when the cauldron will be tipped over and you need to work on that area.
Right.
So they're never always working in balance with each other.
Yeah, gotcha.
You always have to work on certain ones.
Yeah.
But I think the main cauldron that you need to make sure is full is your
root.
Is your
Essentially your base.
your lower cauldron.
Cauldron.
So yeah, it's very interesting.
Amazing.
And I haven't got it all in my noggin yet, but
we're working on it.
We're working on it, yeah.
Great. Oh my God, that's amazing.
But yeah, a bit of a slight tangent there. But yeah, so a lot of the solitary work that I did before pre-Coven was a lot of like meditation ritual, loads of bath rituals. Like I did most of my spell work in the bath alone because I found like that was the place for me where I could go and not be disturbed and just really zone in. And I did some really profound spell work in that space.
Well, it is a safe space if you think about it.
Yeah,
'Cause you
it
get to
is.
shut the door, you know.
And
you get to
also
just be on
something
your
about
own.
being in water for me, obviously, probably to do with being a water sign, is that I just feel really connected.
In the water.
And I remember, you know, part of my moon journey with the moon, I used to have these really strong visualizations of basically Selene, or I think in Greek it's pronounced Selene, probably with a much better accent than that, of the goddess Selene with the moon. Basically, it was part of the moon, and I could just feel my manifestations or whatever I was doing at the time, I can't remember, just coming out of my body and just going into the sky.
Wow.
And her holding them.
Do you remember what you were trying to manifest?
Nope.
Oh.
It was a long time ago.
So you weren't journaling then?
I did do a lot of journaling, like daily. But like 2020 and 2021, I journal every single day.
Wow.
And then I started breaking away from it a little bit. I found that I just didn't need to do it every single day.
How much do you journal now?
I've actually moved away from sort of like a structured journal where you kind of have like more guided stuff, and I just have like a free journal, and probably like more weekly than daily. And I'll just do a dump.
Because I definitely, from, again, doing your full and new moon ceremonies, I now journal every evening. But it's a dump. So it's just
It's just so good to just get it out.
Get it out. And then I notice that I sleep. Like it's like my head goes, thank you. And I just go to sleep. I had the best sleep once I've done that.
I use the basis of any kind of like workshop as a reason to journal. So like instead of like doing it on the full moon and the new moon and the Sabbats and stuff like that, if we have a workshop or I go to a retreat, that is when I journal. So whatever happens in that hour or however long it is, that's what I'll have. So it's not structured at all, but you know, like I went to a retreat the other day and there was opportunities to journal then. So that's when I do it. So it's very unstructured, but you know, it's still more than I ever journaled before. So
It's really interesting.
Let's talk about so different types of covens, basically. So obviously, you know, what we do online it's a digital coven. So we do have in-person meetups and retreats, but largely what we do is all online, which is obviously, I mean, we've been doing it for 2 years now.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, crazy. But traditionally, a coven met in person, right? And there's a lot of different types of, I guess, the way that covens practice. So have you had any experience of being in an in-person coven?
There's a coven in Hastings that kind of like would meet up in person, but it always felt a little bit like a joke to me. Like everyone kind of turned up in cloaks and top hats, and it was all a bit steampunk and just a bit strange, really. And it didn't feel. I think something feeling authentic feels important to me. Don't think I said that right. Like it didn't feel like a real thing.
Yeah.
It just felt like a kind of like, let's dress up and walk on the hill, you know, kind of a vibe.
Right.
So although this is not a conventional coven, they're keeping everyone on track with their practice. It seems way more like authentic to me. But no, I haven't really experienced another type of coven. Like I know that I've got friends that are in sort of like covens that just like meet up and do tarot card pulls and, you know, talk about stuff. I have like circles and stuff
It's
like
more
that.
like a group of friends that you meet.
Yeah,
every
but I
month
guess
or
it's
something.
run a bit more like a regular circle, you know, just like a sharing circle. You know,
Yeah.
everyone will have herbal tea and, you know, chat about things and, you know, maybe do cacao. But, you know, I think that what we do is definitely more, I think it's unique. I think it's totally unique.
Yeah, I think. Because I was going to say, I don't know, I haven't, but it was just something that just came to me then. Have you heard of any, or anyone's mentioned about like maybe a toxic coven, you know, or a space where I think there are some coven members who are in the Lunar Wild Coven who have had experiences of being in
I've actually been told by members,
have you?
privately. I've been told about toxic ones that they've been in, and I actually.
And is it like gatekeeping toxicity, or is it?
There's a mixture. So I think people that are sort of into more of the Aleister Crowley occultist stuff, you know, there's a lot of sex magic, and there's you know, I think they got caught up in things that maybe they didn't want to get caught up in.
Gotcha.
So there's that part of it. And I think also there's definitely a lot of messiah complex going on in terms of, you know, people that leading these sessions having a lot of ego and thinking that they know everything and, you know, not wanting to be challenged on their knowledge. And also there's a lot of people in positions of power using that power to exploit people in a sort of relationship or sexual way. So there's a lot of sordid behavior going on, you know, not I'm not talking about worldwide, but I'm talking about even just in the UK. You know, I received a message on Instagram from someone who I think may have deleted it because I can't find it anymore, but they messaged me wanting to sort of like essentially see if we could talk about a particular coven or thing that was happening in the UK, and unfortunately I don't remember what it was or where it was, but it seemed to be someone was frequently abusing their use of power. Like, imagine you who's in charge of like this whole amazing membership, just like completely using that as like a power play to kind of like, you know,
get what you want.
Get what you want. You know, only share information that resonated with you and not share like a balanced view on things. You look so concerned.
I literally feel traumatized to even think of doing anything like that.
Well, exactly. But that's so like not you at all. And like you're not like you're not anyone with any kind of ounce of ego at all anyway.
No.
Maybe I am. I'm a Leo, unfortunately. But I think, you know, it would just be like, imagine abusing that power.
Yeah,
it just
awful.
is so unethical. No. And, you know, it's not, you know, I think that.
Well, that was my main goal with creating this space, was that it was going to be a safe, supportive space.
But I think part of that, again, you know, I hate to bring it back to this, but part of it remaining safe has been because it's been women only. Yes. And I think that it must be very, very difficult to facilitate a space that's mixed gendered and hold that, keep that safe, that place safe for everyone, because there is like there are natural dynamics that play out in groups, like even with women. You know, we've sit in facilitation is so interesting. You sit in a room with a circle of women, and there are some people that are quite like, you know, want to speak over everyone else, or they want to take all the attention, or they use that opportunity to kind of like assert their authority in a space. And then there are some people that naturally are introverted and you know, don't use their voice, and they feel scared and timid, and the job of the facilitator is to balance that energy.
Yeah, of course.
You know, and it's really tricky. It's tricky online, but it's even trickier in person because trying to like be like, okay, we hear you, and now when we're moving on to the next person,
exactly,
or you know, like having to deal with unexpected trauma dumps, or you know, it's a fine line. But I'm just going back to this person. You know, there's clearly something bad happening in this, because I hear about it quite a lot, about people using their spiritualism as a way to kind of
control, or
yes, but I was actually thinking more about, there's a bit of a rise in people wanting to have multiple partners, and it's kind of going back to that weird polygamy thing, you know, where they're kind of like, well, actually, you know, I don't subscribe to the whole monogamy thing, and you know, I'm interested in multiple partners, and they kind of use their spiritualism, you know, as a as a kind of like excuse.
To then have this
interesting.
polygamous.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I just think that if you're going to seek out a coven, you really need to seek out one that you aligns with your morals, your ethics, or whatever, and one that you feel completely safe in. Yeah. And I actually personally feel that sometimes it's worth paying for, because you don't get all the benefits that we have without having to pay for someone to actually create them. You know, there's so much infrastructure that goes into a coven that has like multiple workshops and retreats and meetups and like even a safe, secure website that's off of social media.
Yeah.
You know, there's so much money that goes into infrastructure, and it's like people completely disregard the expense of how to set up something like that, because they think, oh, I can't afford 20 quid a month or 25 quid a month, whatever it is. They're like, I can't afford that. And it's like, do you understand how much this stuff costs?
Yes.
And how many people you have to make it, you know.
It's not just about cost either. It's
emotional energy.
Yeah, it's a lot of energy that goes into facilitating the actual sessions, the ceremonies, finding people.
You have to be there to open for the people when they're running when you're not even running a session. You have to open and close, so you have to be there for them as well.
Yeah, and just planning the whole month,
promoting
it. Yeah, obviously overseeing everything that goes on,
answering questions.
Yeah, there's a lot. I think it's easy to kind of, I mean, there's obviously a lot of free spaces which I think are important too. I think it's great that people have got those. Yeah. But it's just, they're different. They're different spaces.
They are different. Totally. I mean, we could definitely shout out Seaside Siblinghood.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we think they're amazing. They're brilliant. They do loads of free stuff. But, you know, they also have to do paid stuff because, you know, if you want to be able to offer, you know, it's so difficult to kind of explain. But if you want to continue to invest in education in order to provide these workshops for people, you need to be paid. And I think that there's a problem with there's a problem in our society with people being paid fairly for their work. You know, so it's like, why do we expect, and it happens a lot with women as well, like why do we expect women to just give away their wisdom for free? You know, so back in the day, all of the community used to pay for the healer to live because of what they gave back to the community. You know, so they used to pay for them to, you know, they paid for their accommodation, they made sure that they were fed and they were looked after because they were providing a service that looked after the community.
The well-being.
You know, like a way more holistic exchange than what we have with like a vicar living in a, you know, next to a church or whatever and getting paid a salary, or, you know, getting his home for free, or their home for free, sorry. You know, I just think that like people just don't want to pay us for our work. So you're not only are you providing a safe place for people to come, but you're also paying witches to lead workshops, which is amazing. Yeah. You know, and I hope that it continues to do really, really well. But yeah, the free spaces are really important. But even the people doing free spaces, like I speak to them and I'm just like, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, they have to do paid stuff on the side. But a lot of them have, you know, most of us have jobs, don't we? Yeah. Jobs that we don't love or we don't resonate with anymore. And we have to do it in order to keep it going, keep the witchcraft stuff going. So I think
it's safe to say, like, you know, if you're wanting to join a coven, looking to join a coven, obviously Lunar and Wild, number one. No, I'm joking, except I'm not. But it's just do your homework and make sure.
Yeah, I think if anyone's looking to join any sort of coven,
do your homework
and shop around.
Yeah, shop around, because some people might actually prefer an in-person space. And I think probably to find that in-person space, it's going to be, you know, probably doing some searching in the local area.
Searching and
I mean, I haven't had any experience of seeking out that sort of in-person space before, but I mean, I don't know. It's difficult because I'm thinking like back to, you know, back in the day, you'd look at notice boards in your local community spaces to see what's going on. So perhaps perhaps, you know, in local community areas, they might have something like that.
Facebook groups as
Facebook
well.
groups.
Facebook groups, yeah. But again, that's an online sort of space.
Yeah, but sometimes they have online groups, but they have physical
Have
meetups
a physical
too.
meetup, yeah.
It's just it's just really tricky. Or maybe you want to start one, but like I think we've started these embracing magic ceremonies, you know, and that can be a fairly affordable kind of like opportunity to come and see whether something resonates with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of them, and they've been really beautiful, haven't they?
Yeah,
we had
really
one
lovely.
just yesterday with only 5 people, and it was really, really nice.
Yeah,
it was
lovely.
really intimate and lovely. Yeah, and one before that had, I think, was it 8 before or something like that?
10.
Yeah, 10 before. Yeah, so that was really lovely as well. And we'll be doing one in February, so that's a nice opportunity to come and meet people in person and see maybe if you resonate with the people from the online coven space as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure there's spaces like that. I mean, I know a lot of you at home are from America as well, so you might want to, you know, look to your local communities to see if there's anything around your area or online as well.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of American witches in our coven now, which is great. But yeah, it's interesting, I think, trying to find a space that resonates with you.
Yeah.
Especially the in-person ones are probably a little bit more tricky to find, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely.
I was just thinking then as well, then on the flip side of that, with being a solitary witch, do you think maybe there is, I'm trying to think of the right word, like there are some who think that being the solitary witch is the right way to be the witch. What's the right word I'm thinking of? Like elitism?
Yeah. I think
Like
I think
an
there's
elite-
definitely like elitism around solitary witchcraft.
You're a solitary witch and therefore
You know better.
Yeah. And
Yeah, for sure. I think there's definitely an element of that. But, you know, I think there's also just people that are naturally introverted that really enjoy their own company and that like quiet practice.
Yeah, that's
Which
it.
is like
exactly.
Totally fine.
Totally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't have to be part of a coven to have a meaningful and solid practice, do you?
No, not at all.
And some people might actually be really organised with their spiritual practice and
not me.
Not me.
have everything organised in their own calendar and make their own time and own space to do that, which is, I think, is also really beautiful because, you know, that's again making that time for yourself and your spiritual practice. But yeah, I don't think there's one that's better than another.
No.
But for me, like you mentioned, I like the balance of both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Because there's some things, I don't know why I keep hitting
Your
the
mic loves
microphone
you.
at the moment because I'm all like this. La, 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 la. There's some things that I like to do on my own, obviously, but there's something about being with a group of women, raising that collective energy together.
Yeah.
It's super powerful.
Really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
agree.
But yeah, what do you think?
I think I was thinking the balance is good. I do really feel the coven is, for me, is more potent, more magical. And I think I really delve a lot deeper into myself after like every ceremony I do with the coven. And particularly in person. So I think that last Samhain retreat with all of us, I just felt another shift. Like another level, another
That
gear.
was amazing. Yeah.
It was just so amazing, like you say, like being all together and raising the collective and the different stories that are shared and the way people view things or something they've shared that you've never thought before, and even just sitting in a circle in that kind of sacred environment is just so amazing and so magical. And there's laughter and tears and sharing and releasing and letting go and being really sort of, you know, proud to be there all together. I think it's so special. So for me, I think I do lean, even though I do things in, you know, on my own, I do lean much more into being a coven witch. That really resonates with me more.
I know you spoke a little bit about in-person sessions that we do, but obviously a lot of what we do is online, and that's kind of how you started. So you didn't actually practice with other witches in person. We were all, it was all online.
It's so funny, that first ceremony with you, it's like my mind blew off. Like, you know how you said you were reading all those books going, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. My mind just went, what? Like, this is... That's going to be...
Is that your mind opening?
That's my mind. And this is going to be a GIF, everybody. My mind just is literally, it just sort of expanded. I just suddenly went, oh my goodness, this is what I have been
waiting for
or searching for.
Yeah.
I've been on my own little quest, doing the odd thing here and there, but I had a complete and utter epiphany. I was like, oh my goodness, right, and actually doing it online first and foremost was really good because it gave me the chance to take part in a ceremony and then go away and do a bit of research and then figure things out on my own. And
I still feel like, I know that a lot of people probably think that doing things online won't have the same sort of energy, but I don't know. I feel like it does.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in-person stuff is inherently, there's a lot more energy in the space and you can really feel it, but you can still feel it online.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it just still feels...
I think it's like that collective intention of everybody together going, okay, it's the full moon, it's the new moon, it's in Cancer, it's in Aquarius.
I think it is what you make it, really. Like, I think that if you can get it online as well, but I think it requires some energy from you. Like, it does require you to kind of engage, like whether it's in the chat or vocally. I think that's important.
Yeah.
But I do think that if you go to an in-person thing, you can deepen those relationships. And then when you do reconnect online,
it's true, yeah.
It's a deepening all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I need a mixture of both. I need to be able to hug people and cry with them and then I can have that same level online with them. But, I've also had personal interactions with, witches from the Coven that live in different countries and now feel really close to them, because of those, those personal conversations. Made a one in America recently through the Coven, and I really, really like her. I think she's lovely,
so lovely,
very kind human being. So it's not to say I don't think you should poo-poo any kind of poo-poo. I don't think you should poo-poo online stuff because it can be pretty profound. A lot of the friendships that I've made around witchcraft, like in that solitary period when I didn't have a coven, I made friends with witches abroad through Instagram. So online's still pretty fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, it gives you a space to connect with other witches all around the world, which is, I mean, we're so lucky really to live in a time when we can connect with other witches and have those amazing conversations all online. It's wild really to think about.
Yeah.
How lucky we are.
It's instant as well.
Yeah.
You can instantly connect with someone across the other side of the world. I think being in a coven has made me a better solitary witch as well, and I don't think I'd ever choose to be without the coven now, ever.
Ever? Never?
No, but being part of the coven has meant that when I've gone away to do my own work, I am better at it.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Kind of like being part of a coven has benefited both sides.
Yeah, I mean, I've learnt so much, not just from other practitioners, but from all of the members in the coven.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, learn so much all the time, which I think is just amazing.
And I think when we say sisterhood, that is such a deep. It doesn't kind of encapsulate really the full depth of what that means. So, for example, I'm in different groups with some of the beautiful witches, and there's one beautiful witch who has been in the broom closet, has just sort of said to a couple of family members that she's a witch. And that's massive stuff. And that's because we've all gently been going, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And those moments of, standing in your own skin and your own power and your own belief system, they're massive. That's like the next step along your path,
amazing.
As it were. So the Coven has, on so many levels, such a profound effect. And this was a witch who was primarily a solitary witch and took a long time
Yeah.
to join the coven. So, yeah.
What would you say? What would you say you prefer to do as a solitary witch rather than with a coven?
Oh, that's a really good
Divination.
Yeah, same. Definitely divination.
Yeah, I think divination as well.
Mm.
I was just thinking there.
Although I really
Meditation as
enjoy
well.
having my cards pulled by Leonie every
Yeah, me
month.
too.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of. But then I really like pulling my own cards as well. I just think she's got incredible insight. But I think that I enjoy facilitating divination workshops. But in order to actually like tune in and receive messages, solitary. Yeah.
Yeah,
divination.
same. I mean, I've had some really amazing experiences working with just a pendulum. I feel very quite connected with the pendulum.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I'm starting to feel more connected to that than cards.
Oh, interesting.
I think you've
interesting.
received a lot of messages through pendulums. So
Yeah.
I can understand
Wow,
why.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, definitely divination. Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I was just thinking, yeah, I'd say divination, but actually mine's more, so I've just got a New Zealand Oracle deck, and it's designed by this beautiful artist, and it's Maori designs, and I'm getting a lot of messages through this specific Oracle deck, and I'm doing that a lot, like every day on my own. So I think probably the same, actually. I've done scrying a couple of times because I really enjoy it with candle wax.
So still divination.
So still
then.
divination. Yeah, still divination. Yeah, it's all divination.
I was literally trying to think about
Yeah, I was-
things and I was like, oh, maybe walking through nature and connecting with trees. But actually, I love connecting with trees with other sisters as well.
Yeah, true.
We
But
did that at the
Yeah.
retreat.
I do
that was
really
one of my
like
favourite bits.
I do really like walking through the woods
Yeah.
on my
I
own.
think-
Well, with my little sausage dog.
sausage.
I think I like connecting with water on my own. Like whether that's like, I live by the sea, so when the weather's slightly warmer, I love walking down the beach with my feet in the water, and I'd rather do that on my own.
Ritual baths, obviously.
Yeah, ritual bath. You don't really want to get on a ritual bath with someone else. Different.
I do.
That's a different coven.
I don't have a big enough bath.
Yeah. There's probably quite a lot of things, but and things you enjoy doing in a coven?
Everything.
Oh God, everything.
All the
Literally,
things.
Yeah,
everything.
everything.
I am buzzing when there's like a new or full moon ceremony. I'm like, I can't wait to get home and set up my space. I can't wait to see everybody. Like I'm just so pumped because I'm like, yes, I'm going to have my everything.
Have your hour.
Have my hour. But yeah, everything, absolutely everything. And I try and do all the workshops or the
Yeah, you
chats.
do try and do every single one,
Really
don't you?
try and do every single
Because I
one.
always say to people, like,
Come to the clay workshop, though.
I know, how rude. I was on a Christmas
You're on a
world.
bender.
you've been shunned.
I know, and I really wanted to make a clay.
Oh, you will get to. It's recorded, which
Yeah,
I
I'll watch
still
it.
haven't put up actually. But yeah, I think when I put up the schedule, I think sometimes people can feel a bit overwhelmed because it's like, oh, there's quite a lot of things going on in the month.
Yeah.
But actually, just pick the things that you're drawn to. You
Totally.
don't have to go to every single thing.
Yeah.
Also, I was thinking, how I was complaining about being online. It's actually quite often, if I don't want to be at a screen, I will listen in and I'll go for a walk.
That's it.
So
Yeah.
you don't actually have to be looking at the screen all the
No.
time, So if you want to be part of the new moon or the full moon or any kind of a workshop, you could just go for a walk and listen, or you could get in a bath and listen, or anything like that.
Yeah, a couple
Yeah.
of them I've said to you, oh, look, I'm really tired. I'm not going to.
I know, you need to stop apologising to me all the time. You're always like, I'm really sorry. And I'm just like, you don't need to apologise to me. Like,
Like, come or you cannot
yeah,
come. It's up to you.
come or
to you,
don't
but-
come. It's up to you what you do.
But I turn my camera off and I do that. I have my headphones on and I'll be tootling around.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm listening and I'm still involved.
Absorbing.
I'm
Yeah.
absorbing.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I love about it is that it's just so flexible to what anyone wants to do, really.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like when people join, they feel like it's going to be like a really strict
Yes.
kind of set
that's
form out coven, which I mean, a lot of covens there's a certain set of rules that you've got to follow within ceremony and dress as well, and all these sort of things. But actually, this is very like a modern tool, really, that could fit into your world however you want it to.
Yeah.
And like however you practice, because your practice is still personal to you. So I think being part of this coven, there's still an element of being a solitary practitioner as well.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it fits into whatever your practice wants to look like. We're not telling you that you have to practice in a certain way.
Not at all.
You find your own path.
And also, you're doing so many, you know, for example, like with divination, like you're showing each witch how many things there are to do that you could take away on your own and do. Tasseography, scrying, whatever it might be, that they can go away and do. And you're saying it's over to you. We're showing you, but it's absolutely up to you.
We're the gateway drug.
We're the gateway drug, baby. But I really like what you said. You said it was a tool.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think a juicy tool.
Something in your pocket that you can just...
I'd quite like to do that again.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah.
What was that? The
Tea leaf reading, yeah.
I loved that.
Oh, yeah, that was good. But yeah, I think there's a lot of covens out there, just going back to the structure of a traditional coven. It would be very a certain formula, wouldn't it? A certain way of
doing it. And is it restricted to a certain amount as well? Is there like a
It can be, yeah. And you have to sometimes with some covens there's like formalities, like you have to have done 2 years of this before you can officially
be initiated.
Be initiated, and then there's like priestesses, and then there's sages and stuff like that. And
the look on your face right now is quite
you're like
funny. You're just like, don't want to talk about this.
Emoji eye roll.
I don't like the elitism behind it. Like I think that it should be accessible to everyone, you know, within their means, you know, within their own boundaries. You know, I like a bit of formal wear, but I don't like being told I can't do something. So
don't tell me what to do.
Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think we should probably wrap up this episode all about coven witches and solitary witches. Thank you, ladies, for joining me once again for another episode. If any of you at home are thinking of making the journey from being a solitary witch to a coven witch, obviously there's so many different options out there for you. You might like to join an in-person coven or online. Obviously we have our online coven space, and if you feel like it might be for you from what we've talked about today, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions, either in the comments or directly message me on Instagram. I'd be happy to have a chat with you, or there'll be a link in the description below where you can find out all the information. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning into this episode, and we'll see you all again soon for another episode of Embracing Magic.